Hello and welcome back, Blazor fans. So my usual forgetting to unmute the microphone seems to be a show trend. Thanks for reminding me, guys. So I just wanted to give a quick bit of news. Nothing real in depth this week because I have a special guest waiting to do some live coding. But I have a YouTube channel out there, which the link is. The best way to get to it is go to blazorvideos.com and get redirected there. But I have a lot of videos that were either from build or I hadn't released from previous shows. So there's a lot of stuff up on my YouTube channel. Make sure you check out the live Q&A session that we did with Daniel Roth. So we got Daniel Roth on the show live at Build. He was nice enough to come interview me one-on-one. And we actually streamed this live on Twitch, so you may have seen it already. Some of you guys I know joined us for the live show. But if you haven't seen it, check that out. I'm also going to make that available as a podcast pretty soon for people that don't have time to watch videos and maybe have a nice commute or something. They'd like to listen to it. So I don't have any other news this week because Build was just too much. We're not going to go over all of this stuff in detail. Instead, let's jump over to our coding window. And you will notice that we have a special guest today. How are you doing, Steven?
I'm doing well, Ed. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Looks like our camera might have gotten a little wonky on us again. I know you can't see the live actual video of this, Steven, but I'm just adjusting your window here again. This new guest cam feature is it's the setup is a little tricky to say the least. And it seems like every time I change views, it pushes you out of frame. So you're back on screen with us.
I can see yourself in my head.
We've got quite a few people in the chat room. Steven, while the music was playing on the intro there, I sent you a link that will get you just the chat bits up on your screen if you want to read any of the comments that come through on chat. That's a handy little window to have open. We've also got live share going, so we're usually using Visual Studio Live Share. And we have a brand new file new project, Blazor application open. And we want to continue our discussion from last show about state in Blazor. And you just so happen to have a framework to help with this.
Yeah, a library. Far from a framework, I'd say.
A library. Stand correct.
You Telerik people can do the framework stuff. I'm just a library guy. One little small one at that. So Blazor-State is something that I started almost a year ago. We were talking earlier to just manage state on the client side. I'd been doing React for a couple years at Little Caesars, and we're using Redux. And so I'm like, wow, it's a nice little tool. Let's start there. And this is what came out. It's based on Mediator. So everybody who's using Mediator on the server side should be very, very familiar with how I'm doing it with Blazor-State on the client.
So Mediator is a framework by a friend of mine, Jimmy Bogard, that helps. Is that directly related to CQRS, or is that kind of on its own and it just works well with it?
It's on its own and it works well with it. It's actually just the Mediator pattern or command pattern is what Mediator implements. Jimmy uses it as a part of his CQRS Lite, he calls it, where it's not talking about event buses and in-service bus or anything like that. It's just a small, Mediator has its own pipeline built in process in memory, so there's no queuing and so forth like that. But he calls it his CQRS Lite, and he has a nice little video out on I think it was from Australia when he did one of the talks over there called vertical slices or something like that. Slice architecture, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing him do that talk before. He's one of my favorite presenters. I've seen him do all kinds of really cool stuff. I remember back when I was learning ASP.NET MVC3, I think it was, he had a talk called Putting Your Controllers on a Diet, which I think may have been the precursor to MedaitR. So, yeah.
Actually, it actually was Mediator is how he puts his controllers on a diet, and I just pushed out a blog post. I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, that I was going for the title of no controller, but it ended up being microcontroller. So with Mediator, I take it a little bit further than Jimmy does. Even I only have we have this concept that controllers. We group things together in controllers, but with HTTP, everything is stateless. So there's no relationship between one endpoint to the other endpoint. So I just go ahead and break that entirely. So all of my controllers have a single endpoint, even if it's a get or a put or whatever, just one. So all they do, so my controllers, controller's a terrible name. I actually just call them model binders, because that's basically out of the MVC pipeline. The only piece that I use is it binds it to the request model, and there's one line. It just says send this to Mediator. So it's literally a one line. All of my controllers are one line. So they're really on a diet. But anyway, the Mediator pattern is also what I'm using inside of Blazor-State to manage all of the interactions.
Yeah, while you're talking there, I pulled up the Mediator package on NuGet. And it is, let's see, 3,622,000 downloads. So it looks like Jimmy's hit another one out of the park. If you're not familiar with Jimmy, he's also responsible for AutoMapper, which I think has way more downloads than Mediator does. Let's see, 39,000 downloads for Mediator. Whew.
Million?
I mean, for AutoMapper, holy cow. So he's been putting out some really popular open source packages for quite a while. It's cool to see that you've taken that and given it a whole new life in Blazor on client side ASP.NET.
Yep.
So this is really cool stuff.
it's a nice library that's a simple pipeline with event systems on it. So the Blazor State is not really that complicated. There's a couple little tricks when you do some JavaScript interops, but not very much. And only using JavaScript interop is for the Redux dev tools. So we're talking a lot, but maybe people don't have a clue what we're talking about.
I just pulled up your Blazor-State package on NuGet, just for the people watching in the chat room. For better bandwidth purposes, Steven can't see the actual stream as it's going out live, so I'm kind of letting him know what you guys are seeing.
Yeah.
We are connected on live share in Visual Studio, so you can see the code that's up in the Visual Studio window, and he's going to help walk through some implementation of Blazor State pretty soon here. But I just pulled up your package, and looks like you're off to a good start. 5,000 downloads, and
Yep.
you know,
Probably 3,000 of them are me in my CI system.
Blazor's
Yeah.
just a baby still, so it's nice to see there's some activity there. So this is what we're going to be installing here in a few minutes in our application and working on. And I'm looking at the dependency tree here, and you can see mediators in there, and some mediator dependency injection stuff, and looks like
Got a new one in there from my new friend, Michael, who created this product called AnyClone, which is
okay,
a
see,
lifesaver
any
for me
clone.
because remember, as we started to do this demo before, I was going through cloning stuff to implement how we maintain a solid. Whenever you're going to go to make a transaction, you want to make sure you're in a known state if something fails. So you make a copy, right? So, but the cloning logic was a lot of boilerplate, as you and I witnessed,
Mm-hmm.
and so I went out looking for, and this library, actually, interestingly enough, had a bug that only shows up in WASM. So that took
Oh,
me
okay.
so I ended up with 12 million console.write lines to find out where there was a simple null pointer in not only in any clone uses types type. There's another dependency underneath any clone that he wrote as well, but it was actually in that. So it was one line PR, and he was super responsive. He pushed the PR through and had it out for me. I think last Thursday, because I thought we might go live on Friday or not, but he had it out for me on Thursday last week. So I'm really shout out to him. It's a pretty cool package that you don't implement iClonable, but if you did implement iClonable, I would use it. But it's an
Mm-hmm.
extension method for a clone, and it can clone pretty much anything. I've got I don't know how many test cases he has on it, and I pulled all of his test cases out and put them inside of a Blazor page. Because it ran fine, all my test cases passed, and then I put it in Blazor and it crashed, right? So I put all the tests in Blazor. So on server side, when it was running under mono, I could see the bug. But anyway, that's the new addition, and that solves a lot of boilerplate, which you'll see when we get to this demo that it's much easier to add
Yeah,
state
there
management.
there definitely was quite a bit before, so it's awesome to see that you've fixed that. Also, we've got some new followers. Mackenzie or Makazi. Sorry, these names are terrible to pronounce. Thank you for following. Also, Snowfrog Dev. Thank you for following, and thank you for having an easy to read name. I like that.
Snowfrog's my buddy. We were testing with online a little bit.
Snowfrog, is it? Are you a streamer too? I think I recognize the name from somewhere as well.
He
So,
is. He's streaming 100 Days of Code right now, and I think
oh,
Snowfrog.
okay.
What are you on? Like day 24 or something? I think he is.
All right, you guys give a Snowfrog a look up on Twitch here and make sure you follow him. So we one last look here at the um, Blazor State package. I've got the version history, and 12 hours ago there was an upload to NuGet. So you're very frequently pushing new bits to this thing. So let's jump over to
Well,
Visual Studio and We'll wing it.
With the CI/CD, every time you want to make a change to test, you just pound the crap out of all your versions. So, yeah, I've got quite a few up there. But now I've versioned them. If you didn't look at that version, that's quite confusing, but it makes sense. I tried to version them based off of the preview version that I built it with.
Okay.
So you see that it's 100 with whatever the ASP.NET Core preview version is, followed by a date stamp. This is what that logic is. And to get that to work in your CI/CD system only takes about 2 days.
All right, so let's take a look at some of your hard work. I will give you control if you want to start showing us the basics. Where do we get started with this? I think probably the very first thing would be, well, first of all, we have a file new project. This is a full stack Blazor app with Blazor on the client side and a basic server. Here, I'll run it for folks watching. It's just we never know who's in the chat room and what experience they have with Blazor, so we'll talk about the very basics here real quick. So this is a client-side app. It has the counter demo, and it has the fetch data demo, which the fetch data demo in this file new project experience has a controller on a server that has sample data that it generates. And the client does an HTTP request to get the data and then bind it to the view. So this is the full stack development model that we've got open here. And I just closed all my windows out so we can get started from the beginning. What should we do first, Steven?
Run the thing, did you?
Yeah, I just ran it and it's up in the browser, and I've got the counter and the fetch data up on the screen.
Okay, so I can't see your shared server doesn't come through. LiveShare should let me run your server as well, but that's okay. So just let's show the fact that when you go back and forth from the counter page, you can increment up, and then you leave the page and come back, and the count is set back to, I think, 0 on the default.
Okay, give me 1 sec. I'm going to try running it with debug mode enabled. Maybe that will give you access to the shared server. So I did a Control F5 because usually it just works a little bit faster.
Oh, for sure.
Because client-side debugging in Blazor is kind of not a thing yet. So I usually just, out of habit, skip over that. And do I still have you in LiveShare? Because it looks like my LiveShare...
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But I think you're kicking off, and it's actually running. It kicks it off without me doing anything on my side as well.
So you're able to see then.
So that's nice, and I can actually run and play around with it as well. Okay, cool.
Okay, so we've got counter and fetch data, and then should I stop this from running, or do you need that open?
Nah, I don't need it open. Just so that when you go back and forth between the home and the counter, you lose your state. So that's the essence of client-side state. We want to be able to maintain it through routes. So let's add Blazor-State to this thing and make that counter persist.
Okay, so Lewis, the problem isn't so much that Steven doesn't have an extra monitor. It is bandwidth. So if you're trying to watch the stream while you stream Skype and do live share and all these things over the wire, and Steven, where are you located again?
I'm in Bangkok, Thailand, right about 80 meters from the bay.
And so you're trying to do all this halfway around the world, and the less bandwidth you're taking up, the better. So Lewis,
yeah, I do have.
Steven has plenty of monitors, I'm sure.
I have 3, yes.
Who's like, what? All right, so sorry to interrupt you. Let's get back to the task.
That's okay. Legitimate questions, though. It's like, why didn't he just have another monitor? Yeah, we could try that, but we're not real sure if it'll work. Okay, so yes, let's add Blazor-State to this bad boy. And the first thing we want to do is go into our client and add the package. All right, so... By the way, when you right-click on NuGet, don't you think it should say Open Package Manager? By the way, I can't do
Yes.
that at
So I
all
know.
through live share. So you
Yeah.
have to do
Let me
that.
do this then. So we're gonna click on dependencies. As Stephen pointed out, if you right click on NuGet, it gives you a bunch of weird stuff. But we're gonna right click on dependencies, do manage NuGet packages, and then we will browse. Which I wish browse was the default instead of installed, but I won't nitpick that today. And then we need to look for Blazor-State, which comes up in my autocomplete because I've looked at it before. And here we go. And
And we
then,
should be on that weird version
yeah,
that's
5933.
517, 5933. Yeah, that should be the one.
So it looks like we're installing, accept the license agreement. This is all Microsofty stuff here. I'll go ahead and accept that. Just
Yeah,
sign
because
my life away.
my license agreement on Blazor State is the wonderful unlicensed. I'm not going to hire attorneys. I can't afford to fight you anyway, so do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. All right. So we're on the pre-release build here. We're installed, and we should be ready for the next step then.
I put the link of the from the docs of what we're actually going to be doing right
Oh,
here
okay. There we go. So
live as well.
right in the chat room.
So you added it, and now let's go into the configure services inside the client, which we normally put in the startup location, and four spaces for your tabs. Huh?
Let's see. It's not
This is default.
mirroring the window here. So
You have to follow me.
Okay. I am new to live share, so let me see if I can. There we go. I just needed to click the right button on the interface. So we are in startup.cs.
Yeah, there you are. So it's simply just add services dot. Well, it would be add Blazor State. Would be that simple if I had the using in it. And then the ad would show up.
We should do more shows like this. I don't have to even type now. This is great.
You're talking types, right? So that should be fine. I don't understand why I'm getting red squigglies on live share. Are you?
It looks like everything's working fine on my side. I see the add Blazor State has lit up with the right color. I don't see any red underscores here at all.
Okay, so good.
Good.
I do, but we don't care. If it works on your side, that's all that matters. All right, so that's it. That's the configuration for Blazor State. If you take all the defaults, and the defaults are all the features are turned on. So it manages route state as well. It turns on the Redux dev tools, which we'll go over in a minute.
I believe I have those installed, so
okay, cool.
We should be able to look at that once it's up.
So the next thing you need to do is what are we going to do? We're going to add some state. Again, you're talking about Jimmy, so I'm a Jimmy guy, and why can't I add a folder? I can share things I can add, but I can't add a folder.
Okay,
so you get to do that.
We need
You're
a
back
new
to typing
folder
now.
under the main project?
Yeah, under the main, make a folder called features.
All right. This may actually just be a setting that I have to turn on for you, but I've added the folder, so.
Okay, under that folder, create another one called counter.
So we're splitting up the app into features now. So this is like the slices type of approach.
So yeah, on my page there in the overview, the definitions are available as well.
Another good community person that is a big fan of these slices is Steve Smith, or R. Dallas, who also has another stream that's usually about the same time as mine, so you may not have caught it, but watch his replays.
Yes,
he's a really good presenter.
Yeah, Steve Smith is my mentor as well, and he does stream the same time, but he's not doing Blazor. We're doing the fun stuff. I don't know what he's working on today. I think he's working on his DevBetter website. I know that he just told me he's going to send everybody over to us if we're still going when he's done.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
That'll be nice. Okay, so we kicked that off, and now we've got features, and we've got a folder counter, and then inside that folder, let's see if I can add a file. I can. I don't know if my
So we got
I didn't want to. I
new
didn't want a
text
text
file.
file. I'm gonna see if my Shift F. I don't know if my extensions work on your.
Yeah, this is new territory for me. I haven't really used
Yeah,
live share too much.
they don't. So I want to add. I want to. I don't want a text file. I want to. It won't let me add anything but a text file, and it won't let me
Okay.
change the name. There, let me change the
So
name. Okay, well, I can counterstate.cs. Okay, so there's that. Now
okay,
let me
I've
open
got
that
I've
up.
got a file there now,
Yay!
and looks like we're in it. So we're following along.
All right, so we're going to copy and paste. This is the easiest way since it didn't give me anything, didn't give me any help. All right, cool. So the only thing we wanted here, the tricks are this is how we determine, this is the magic that we inherit from state. And this is an interesting little generics, but this is the way that I can figure out which state each event's handling. But nonetheless, that's the pattern that we go with. The only thing that we care about is count. That's the only state that we have. Notice that this is private. So it should be immutable from anybody other than this state itself. And that's why you're going to see also that this is a partial class. So all of the mutation for this state happens within the class itself.
Okay.
We initialize it to 3. So at this point, we should be able to run. It should show 3, right?
I don't know. We haven't gone into the page and implemented anything yet.
Yeah, exactly. So we
So
can't
we've
display
we've
any.
just got a class right now called counterstate,
Yeah,
and
so
it
that's where we're going to
is
store it, and we
inheriting
initialize.
state of counterstate. Correct.
Yep. All right.
Partial
So
class. All right.
next thing we want to do is we want to be able to show it on the user interface, right? So let's go find that counter page, and maybe it'll show up for me. Yes. So okay, and then we want to. The easiest way to do this, Pete. I don't know if Pete, you on here? Pete is my buddy, also the author of a competing state management tool called Fluxer. So if Blazor State doesn't meet your needs, you can go harass Pete.
Yeah, I did. I didn't have the live sharing and Skype stuff set up with him, but I did cover it. He gave me a crash course the day before, similar to like you tried to do, and we talked about it on one of the early shows, the Fluxer library that he's got. I don't see him in the chat room, but we do have Mr. Magoo showing up, asking what we're up to. So we're checking out the Blazor State Management Framework by Steven Cramer, and Mr. Magoo. It looks like you're just in time to see that we have a guest today. So Steven Cramer
Yeah, the
is
fun
helping me out
stuff.
today. So I'm sure you've heard of Mr. Magoo before, Steven. He's
Oh, absolutely,
got all of the cool
absolutely.
demos.
Yeah, he's got all kinds of stuff. I don't know how you guys do it. And then Sainty over there is a blogging fiend as well. A lot of his stuff is very good. I think his latest one was something to do with data binding.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time keeping up with blogging myself. It just takes up so much time. So I always tip my hat to Chris and his efforts.
Well, I got bad news for you. I just changed the file, and Visual Studio went bye-bye.
VS went
So let me
dark on you? Okay.
fire that back up. So we're on the displaying state in the user interface. So it needs to inherit from the Blazor State component. And I was joking about Pete because Pete's going to be like, you shouldn't have to do inheritance, and you don't have to. You can implement these interfaces yourself. But it's quicker to just inherit from. It's a small little interface, but it's quicker to inherit from. Okay, so I'm trying to pull Visual Studio back up.
And real quick, Don Maxside, thanks for the second month of subscribing to the show. I really appreciate that.
Okay, so now I need to join file, join live share session.
Yeah, don't see you on live share
Again.
yet. If you need a new link, let me know. we'll get that established. So Steven's Visual Studio took a dump on him. So what we're looking at right now is I have the counter component, and he was inheriting from Blazor-State component, which I'm sure we'll learn a little bit more about. And then we're going to use this inherited class to connect our state management. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly. So
And
if you want, I think so. I think I'm back. Let's see if it works. Scary. We're testing everything, and we're running alpha software on. Oh, I think now LiveShare is general available. Didn't we just read that a minute ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
As of like 2 days ago.
Yeah, LiveShare's new, Blazor's a baby, Visual Studio preview bits. We're breaking all the rules.
Breaking all the rules. All right, so we're going to add Blazor State into a usings clause. We're going to do it all in here just to make it as simple as we can. Oh man, I got another exception. Hopefully it doesn't crash for us. All right, I didn't die yet. All right, so that's good. And next thing we want to do is we want to get this counter state as a property. So let's go down in here and make it. I don't know why.
So Blazor State component, is that a that's a class that comes from your library?
Yep.
Oh no, we lost you again.
Yeah, it crashed again. So get your keyboard out, Ed, and I'm going to guide you through this.
All right. Let me try something real quick here. Let me pull up my Skype window and see if I can share my screen. Since you're having trouble connecting, I don't know if this is going to be hard on the stream or not, but I will try to share this with you. Folks in the chat room, if you notice that the stream gets laggy because I'm doing this, please let me know. But LiveShare is not working for us. So Steven's going to have to walk me through this, and he has to be able to see my screen. So that's what we're doing now. If you notice the stream just start dropping out for some reason, just ping me in the chat. Oh, and you did reconnect.
Yeah, it's reconnecting, but maybe you can drive. Maybe it's just my input that's doing it. So
let me drive for a few minutes here, and we'll see what happens. All right. So you were getting ready to type something here underneath of this integer, this current count.
Correct. So we're going to add in there the counter state, that new class we just created. So it's going to be a counter state. And that type's not existent, so control dot would work if we were in a C# file, but it won't work here, right? So you have to go up there and add it into your usings, and that's going to be under sample client features counter.
Sample client.
That should pop up with IntelliSense, but it's not, isn't it?
It is for me, yeah.
Oh, it is for you. Okay, good.
Features counter. And
yeah, so that should make counter state.
Client stuff. Where does that come from? What exactly is that?
Well, the sample, that's just a namespace for where we created that class, right? Yeah, the default namespace, because it's based off of. Sample client. That's mine. I told you that. I'm lying. So in your case, you created state management.client. So get rid of sample and make it state management.
It's weird. It picked it up though.
I don't know where. It shouldn't have picked it up.
It's finding it somewhere. Let's see.
Oh, because counter state, I probably copied and pasted it in counter state.
Okay.
Itself
Yeah, you did. There we go.
So it probably will work if you just left it that way.
It would, but that's going to be a little confusing. Let's change this. It should be state management features counter.
Yeah, every place we see sample
tripped up later.
Yeah.
And then we'll replace this with state management features counter, and now we have our counter state object.
Yep. And counter state, name it counter state. So that class is the counter state and the name counter state, and then you can fat arrow this.
So
and do get state.
Read only property.
Yep.
So we have get state, and then
Yep, and that's a generic. So,
So we
you're going
need
to
to
put
type
counter
it.
state in there. And this is what that Blazor state component gives you. It gives you that get state method, right?
Okay.
So what it does inside there is it places a subscription. So whenever this component accesses get state, it automatically places a subscription on this component. So when the handler runs an update state, it will fire a re-render to this. Also, Blazor state component, all it does, it adds this get state capability, and it also makes a method called re-render, which just calls state has changed,
Oh,
which you
so
should
we
be
don't
familiar
have
with that.
to manually invoke state has changed all the time.
Correct.
Nice.
So
Right.
so that's a little bonus. If, like I said, if you wanted to not implement an inheritance, if you want some other class that you've got it implemented and you can't pull it in, I might actually, I don't know yet, because I'm not sure, I haven't used them yet, but C#8 default interface would be tempting if I could do
Yeah.
it with that, but there's no constructor on a default interface yet. So I don't know how dependency injection works, but I'll play with that later.
Yeah, that's a good
But
question.
anyway, so now you've got state in there. So take that int current count there that's equal to 0 and change that to equal to counter state.count.
So counter state got count. And
Yeah.
was that a method or a property?
That's a property.
Okay,
Yep, you got it.
why
So
do we
now
have...
the only thing, you're going to have red squigglies probably on your current count
Mhm.
plus, right? Because we just made it read only by making it. You made it equals, and you should make that a fat arrow on that guy.
Okay, so it's going to be independent property then.
Yep. So comment out your current count right now because you can't. It's immutable, right? I can't stand the yellow, so save the file. I never lose work. I'm paranoid. I hit Control S. By the way, years ago, Outlook actually had Control S to send an email.
Oh yeah.
That was a really bad thing. Yeah, I sent a tons of. It's like you just want to tell somebody off and you're half done, and then oh crap, I just sent it. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. Not a good thing. But okay, so now we should be able to run, and then we should be able to see that what we initialized counter state to 3, so that should be 3.
Okay, since we're not doing live share anymore, I'm just going to Control F5 because it's got a lot less overhead, and I'm already worried enough that this is going to lag the thing.
Let's keep the thing running.
We've got some questions here too. I don't know if you still have that chat link that I sent.
I do.
Mr. Magoo is asking, look at this and think, inherits, Blazor state component, counter state would be nice. Or is that stupid?
Well, the Blazor state component actually makes it available for you to get whatever state you want from it. So actually, see the way on line 15 where we pull counter state in, the way I do it on my apps for a client would be I take all of the states and put them in my base component. So all of those properties are on the base component because they don't cost me anything. I don't place a subscription until somebody accesses it, right? So if they're there on the base component and a component doesn't use it, then it's not hurting me any, but it just makes it convenient. So I don't declare it on each one, but the base component. So I would have a counter state, fetch data state, logged in state, user, whatever, all of the classes that you have states in my base component, so that every component that inherits from them has them already. So we wouldn't have had to add line 15 if it would have been in the base component. Okay. I create another base component inherited from Blazor state component for all of my apps. But anyway, that's
while you were giving that excellent answer, I don't know if anybody noticed, but the build crashed. Not an error, but the usual hang up that you sometimes encounter with Blazor. So it was a build hang. I had to cancel it and restart it. So that's why it took so long to get this up on the screen. But we have a counter with an initial count of 3, and I'm guessing I cannot increment right now.
Yeah, the increment button, we commented that out, so it doesn't work. Okay, so now we actually want the increment button to increment something, right? That would be nice. So we need to be able to mutate state.
Okay.
I guess I could move these screens over now to this one over here, move that one. Ah, heck, it doesn't matter. You guys can look at my ear.
Which I have to resize you yet again because for some reason it keeps changing your window size on me. So there we go. We got a little bit better view of you there. So do I need to add something inside of increment count, or do we have to go to the state counter state first and add some sort of method to call?
We're going to create an action inside of that features folder that we had.
So we're going to create yet another class.
Yes, we're going to create another class.
New item.
You're going to see that with Mediator, the basic pattern is simple: model in, model out. So there's always a class in, always class out. It works very well for REST APIs. It matches with it fits with HTTP very well. Redux pattern does the same thing. So you had action creators in Redux. I don't know who's using Redux, but Mediator is the same thing. So inside your features folder, create an actions folder.
All right, let's see. Oh, hang on a sec. Just smashed the wrong key on the keyboard, so immediately into a temporary offline window that we didn't want to do. I was trying to hit escape, not a hotkey, because I got ahead of you and tried to create a new file. I want a new folder. New folder under features called actions.
Yep.
Right?
And then and then inside of that folder, you're going to create another folder called increment count.
Okay, so
and then finally, inside that guy, we're going to create a class called increment count action. So if you keep these things separate and be pedantic about it, it actually, when it seems like overkill on a small project like this, and it is for just a demo. But when you get to scale and you have 1,000 components and 50 features or whatever, then organization is going to really matter. So inside there, you've got increment count action, and I can actually see that. Okay. So this is the request that you're going to say, this is what I want the guy to do.
Okay. If you've got live share back, you're welcome to type if you'd like.
I'm afraid if I type.
Oh, okay.
I'm afraid,
Either's fine.
But we can try. So all we're going to do here is create this increment count action. Needs to inherit from the Mediator class. I request, which it's a generic. So I request and of counter state. So let's see if I can. I'll give it a shot.
Great comment there, Janescu. He said
request
there should be a Mr. Base Component Magoo.
Of counter state. That's what we want here. And we should be able to control dot and add using Mediator in there, right? And control dot, add that counter state in there as well.
Okay,
control
so we can
dot,
see Mediator being used directly now.
Stuff there. So this I request is a Mediator interface. So this would look just like you would have on the server side when you're using Mediator also. And all we do, this is just like a little DTO pretty much. Simple little, and we're just showing that we have properties as opposed to the boring counter, which doesn't have properties, right? So there we go. So we have, this is the request that's going to be sent out, so that should work. And now if we go back to our counter page.
Let me make sure I'm following you again. I was not. There we go. I'm caught up with you. So our increment count.
Yeah, so where we were directly accessing state or accessing this internal state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And changing it immediately. Now we're going to go through Mediator, which is actually this. And you're going to send it one of these new actions that we just created. Increment count action. And what we wanted to, whoa.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Thank you, live share.
Okay, I don't know where I ended up. Control Z.
Here, I'll fix that.
I got, oh crap. That's a first.
Oh wow!
I've got my
Look,
I've got my path in there somehow.
see if I can fix this. Hang on. That's not letting me undo. So let's do this. We may need to rewrite some of this, but really, okay. So it's going to be like that.
Well, here, let's see. I've probably got the whole thing right. Other than the sample being wrong, let's see if I can do a control.
Okay, yeah, you've got some cheat sheet stuff there.
Paste here. Oops. Keep the at.
See if we can do
The
this at the same
sample.
time. Try to clean this
You're
up while
supposed to
you
be able
clean that
to.
up.
Oh,
The magic of technology. It lets us
Just
shoot
going crazy.
ourselves in the foot, only to be really cool and let us fix it.
mine just crashed entirely. Kicked me
All
out.
right. Okay, so live share is
maybe generally available, but
needs
it's not
work.
generally ready. Yeah.
Thank you, live share, for the entertainment today.
We can send this to the live share team as examples of
That's actually not a bad idea.
some bugs that they might want to take a look at.
It wouldn't be the first time, and it probably won't be the last time that I have run into things on the show and sent it to various teams over at Microsoft. That's one of the nice parts about being MVP is I get to funnel feedback over to them. And they've been really good at fixing stuff. We had quite a few glitches on the ML.NET side of things. I sent them over to the docs team, and they jumped all over it. So this is probably going to be helpful to somebody.
I found a bug on the new Insider edition of Windows. None of my Windows Store apps that use a particular DLL work. So I went through the normal channels, but then I also looked it up on GitHub, and I filed an issue directly on this where that source file is, right? And the guy responded super quick. He's like, "We've been trying to find this thing." He goes, "Thanks." I sent him over all the log files and stuff. So yeah, they don't want to send bugs in their code, that's for sure.
So we need.
I'm back
send this thing a action, right? Is that how it works?
Yes, it should be as simple as mediator.send.
Okay, I think the using statement is gone in here again, so we need using mediator. Is that right? And then
yeah, mediator should be in scope because of the inherited Blazor state.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, so we don't
Should
need
be.
that. Yep, there it is. Send, and you can see that. Like, I'm going to back up for a sec. You can't see this on live share, but for the folks on the live stream, the star next to send is actually AI-driven IntelliSense now. This is called IntelliCode. So it's actually picking up send from that list for us, which is really cool. So we need to send it something. You said a new...
that action that we just created, the increment count action.
New increment count action, which I don't think we have a namespace for. So we need a using statement for that one. Statement.
Actually, don't add that.
No?
Don't add that. Yeah, go to the action itself and change the namespace.
Oh, okay.
I don't go below a certain place. Everybody follows this folder thinking, and I'm not a fan. So stop right at the actions. Leave it at actions. Yeah. Well, it should be counter. I don't know where that actions is. How that actions is not in there. Oh, you got your actions outside of counter.
Oh,
So
I gotta move my folder here. So
yeah,
we'll drop
yeah.
that there,
So the
and
way the
then
feature folders are organized is by the state that they act on. So that's why we say counter, and then inside a counter, you should have the counter state and then actions inside of that. And there you go. If you leave the namespace at the state, then you don't have to import it on the others.
and then we can get rid of that as well, right? So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
works.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So now we should be able to pass in a parameter, open squiggly. There's no constructor. Yeah. It's just direct. What do we call that? Direct initialization.
Something like that.
Constructor.
We'll go with that.
I don't know what the heck. Amount equals 5. Yeah, whatever it is.
Amount equals, and then
or whatever number you want it to be. I don't care.
So how much you want to increment? A direct amount, but don't we want to increment? So how do we get the current amount and increment that amount?
Well, the current amount is already. This is the command to say I want you to increment your count that you're holding in state by some number.
Oh,
so how much do you want it to increment by?
Okay, so we're incrementing by. So we're going to set that to 1, because that would be. I'm just mimicking what we used to have. So we incremented by 1 before. We'll do that now.
Yep.
So
yep. That's
now we have to actually apply that somewhere, though.
Correct. Now you have to be able to say, okay, who's going to handle this? So the Mediator pipeline sends an action onto the pipeline, and then it via dependency injection, it says who can handle this action, and instantiates that handler, and calls handle on it. That's how simple it is, really. So let's go into right back where our actions were. So that counter folder, actions folder, and create a new file in there called increment count handler, right next to increment count action.
Okay, so I'm in the wrong folder. Add new item. All right. And I think you may have a plugin for this. I need to get it back. You can just do add a file. It's really helpful.
Shift F2. It's a MADS extension.
Increment count handler.
Yep, increment count handler.
All right, so add that, and we'll adjust the namespace when that comes up. We don't need all this. Just make things simple, and now we need to handle it.
Correct. So the trick here is that this handler has to have access to private information, right? So I wanted it to be immutable, yet I still want to be able to mutate it where I want it to be. So the trick to that is you are making the handler a partial class, what do you call it? A nested class of a partial class. So if you make this a public partial class of counter state.
So partial class.
You could keep that actually there, Ed. You could wrap it. It's going to be a nested class inside of. It's going to be a nested class.
Okay.
Yeah. Counter state, and then open squiggly. There you go. So what the beauty of that is now this handler has access to the private parts of counter state. So you get protection, so that and it's encapsulated, right? So this is actually a part of counter state. So all of its capabilities to mutate itself are encapsulated within the state. So I think Steve would be happy with that. We're not breaking any solid principles that way.
Okay.
So that handler itself needs to implement another mediator interface. I actually have a request handler inside of Blazor-State. So you're going to need to add a using Blazor-State at the top.
Using Blazor-State. There we go. And oops. Jumping in and out of Razor and stuff always makes me forget things like semicolons, and I put @ symbols where they don't belong.
Yeah. So inherit this from request handler. And the way these things work are the action that they're going to act upon and then what they return. So this is taking an increment count action is what it's going to handle. That action that we created earlier. So increment count action.
Why is it not giving... All right.
And it's going to return a counter state.
Oh, I think I botched the namespace a little bit. It should have been state management client features counter, and I named it features counter without the client. So that's why.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't find it. I was gonna say it should be in scope, but yeah.
Let's do this. Let's fix this real fast.
Yeah.
So it's gonna bug me if I don't fix it.
Yeah, there.
Got myself into a little namespace hell here.
There we go.
There we go, and that might break other things too. So we shall see. But we will cross those bridges when we come to it. And now I've got underscores here. Why? Oh, it requires 2 arguments. So we're given an action and
what it returns, which would be counter state.
There we go. That should
there you
clear
go.
Up
so
those squigglies,
now,
but it didn't.
Well, it should tell you need to implement, because that's an abstract class. It should tell you need to implement handle.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. So that's pretty much most of the work. So this handler also needs access to the state that it's going to implement, and you can get that the same way you did before, almost. This request handler that we inherited from has the store automatically on it. You could do without the request handler if you wanted your own, if you implemented the iStore interface and injected it, but it's a little easier to just inherit from it. So above this handler, declare the property counter state, and you get it out of store.getState.
So where do I declare that?
Let's try it. For God's sake, let's see if I can paste
it in handle?
here.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Wow, it worked. It didn't crash. Don't
live dangerously.
Yeah, living on the edge. Yeah, so okay, so you got public override that. So now you have counter state available, and that counter state is mutable now because you're inside the private property. So inside their handler, just do counter state.count equals or plus equals the increment count action.
So it is going to be.
Well, yours is named a request by default. I would never name it that, but
it did. I got you. Okay, so this was the auto implementation of it.
Yeah.
Let's fix that up a little bit. Cancellation token. There we go. I don't know why it auto implemented that way. Usually it's a little smarter than that.
If it has
in my
done
experience, it has been.
If it's done its code learning on it, it will do it right. It picks my variables. That little a prefix I do, everybody complains about, but I have my reasons for it. But it figures it out for me and actually names my variable names for me with the with that new IntelliCode.
So we're going to have to return a task here.
You're going to return your counter state. So it's going to be so you're going to need a task from result. All of Jimmy's moved Mediator now to async everything.
Okay, so when I increment the counter state, I then...
Yep, you've got it. Yep, return task.fromResult. And task might have to import. I don't know if it's available. Oh, it's there. System threading, you already got it, okay. And then return counter state.
Is it type of counter state?
It's yeah.
It's automatic, okay.
Yep. So now
we're still getting a squiggly here.
What's it complaining about?
Still looking for parameter a store.
Oh, because you, like I said, the A is probably due to me. Where store.get state. I don't see any place that we have that anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's looking for.
Counter state count plus minus increment count. Yeah, try a compile. That way I can see the error maybe in the error list. I don't know if the error list comes over or if it'll crash.
Anything is possible at this point. All right, so namespace counter state could not be found. Oh wait, there it goes. Cannot. Okay, so that's all Razor. Here it is. There is no argument given that corresponds to the formal parameter a store of request handler.
Of request
Increment count action, counter state,
handler.
request handler, iStore.
Oh, we implemented, we didn't do the constructor. We didn't implement the constructor.
Okay.
We inherited, there's no base constructor there. Yeah, so, sorry.
And that's oh, we need to have
call the base. You take a parameter, you take the store.
Base trying to remember.
Takes an I store in the original here.
Am I doing this right?
Yeah, in here. I store. Yeah, and then you just pass the store.
Just pass it. Okay.
That
there we go.
Now does he complain on your side?
It looks like we're good. I think I broke. I need to go in here and look at the counter component itself, where I think I broke some namespacey stuff, and then we should be able to compile. So this should be client, and then all that should be happy again.
All right.
And then Control Shift B, let that build out.
So I learned something else, that the default key bindings on Visual Studio, that I switched them to like C# version like 30 years ago.
Oh.
And because you sign in, I'm always telling people how to do it. I'm like, hit F6, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? Right? You hit Control Shift B, right? So it follows you. So I'm like, I don't set these settings. I've never changed them. But just yesterday, me and another guy that I work with, he's saying the same thing. I'm like, let's figure out what this is. And I actually have and it follows me around, because when you log in, it keeps your settings from like, it's been following me for like probably, I don't know, 10 years or something. If I switch now, I'd never be able to use Visual Studio anymore.
So the increment count handler, it news up with access to the store, and then let's see here, it gets the state from the store, and then we call the count, or we increment the count based on the action, and then we return that new state as a
Correct.
as a task.
Yep.
Okay.
So all of your state changes are going to be, I call them actions on the client. They're the exact same thing that you're going to use if you send an asynchronous back and forth to the server, but I call the things that are handled on the server requests, just so that we have a little bit of separation. Makes it a little bit easier, like, what thing am I looking at here? Mm-hmm. So anyway, if we run this thing now.
Yes, and it will run, because I did a control build, and it built fine. It took a little while, but it built. It's really, all of these things were running and really hitting the processor hard. So it's a little on the slow side, but it is working. So now we can increment again. All right.
So we've got a question there on should you should change the state. Wait. Should that be a pure function instead of changing the value? I talk about that a little bit between pure functions and non-pure functions on my on the overview, and I handle them. I don't distinguish between the two because they're handled. They all go down the pipeline the same way. So I don't distinguish between. If you want to know if something has a side effect or not have a side effect, you can distinguish that yourself, and obviously you should be aware. But I don't distinguish on the way I handle them through state.
So we're not doing pure like functional programming here. We're putting some safeguards around, but we're not being so strict that we're newing up a brand new counter state every time we do something with it.
Well, he's concerned about that, but you are newing up a brand new counter state because of the way the pipeline works. The one that you get in here is not the same one that you had on the outside.
So it is manual, or it's automatically newing a new state up. Then we're incrementing the count of the new state.
Correct. On mine, when you run, actually on this one here too, when you inspect, when we get to the Redux DevTools, I put a GUID on the state. So that you can see that they actually change. So it's actually it's a different state. All the things are the same except for the GUID.
Yeah. So we're not changed. I think the point Steven's trying to make is we're not changing the state. We're cloning the state and then changing the state of the new object.
So Brave there is a Redux guy, and he's correct. But what you do in Redux is that you create a new one. You create a new one in Redux in your reducer at the end. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference between saying I'm always going to give you back a new one, or what I do is the first thing I do before you're going to change state, because the only reason you're in a handler is you're going to mutate state. Mm-hmm. If you're not, then why bother? So what I do is I give you a new one first, so you don't have to worry about pure functions or whether you mutate state or not. Exactly, mutate whatever you want in there. It's fine. And if you throw an exception, I'll roll back to the previous known good state anyway. So it accomplishes the same thing as to always create a new one. It is a new one.
Okay. It's got some more questions there. I'm going to hit Lewis's question first, though. Yeah, we do have our state. It is stateful. So we do have our 10. Brave Cobra is asking about race conditions and concurrent threading with that model. Any input there?
Shoot, I don't see how you would have any differences if you created a new object at the end versus the creating a new object in the beginning, as far as threading goes or thread safe. So no, I haven't had any.
So it's a brand new
race conditions.
Completely brand new object. It's not a reference, an object reference. So
it is a clone. Yeah, it's a clone. It's a separate object. So I don't see any. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see anything there.
that is also
Lewis
true.
Is right. Lewis is right, but I can run server side. I can run server side as well. But
we can't get those things. Yeah, server side and those features can't come later and shoot us in the rear. But yeah. We're gonna run with this for now. It looks like we've got.
I run the same pattern on the server side often. Little Caesars. If you go order a pizza off Little Caesars, that's running on that same pattern on the server side, and we've not had any race conditions. So
nice. So you've got this running in at scale and it's working fine. So that's always a good thing.
Well, that's the thing also that we talk about Blazor being brand new, but Mediator's not brand new, mm-hmm. right? Mediator's on like version 7 or something, I think. Yeah. Actually, I think I'm one behind. I maybe need to update. But and all of these .NET components that we're pulling in, that's the beauty of it. Once this framework starts to gel, then we've got legacy of solid code that we can just throw into Blazor now. So it's not like React. When React came out, all that stuff had to be rebuilt brand new in React, right? We don't have to do that. We've already got all this code that'll just run in the browser. So that's pretty nice. Now all of our controls and UI stuff, a lot of that needs to be rebuilt in order to take advantage of the Blazor features, but all the backend stuff or logic stuff, just drop it in and run. Okay, so let's try something else here. So Redux DevTools should be working for you if you can fire up your F12 there. Let's see if I can.
So I've got it installed. I was just looking at it a second ago here. And where does it come up? Is it? It's been a while since. Oh, there it is. Redux, and then no store found.
Yes. So
is there some hooks or something we need to add, or
yes,
is there a
yes,
JavaScript
there is.
interop, or?
So in order to get that stuff to fire up, it uses JavaScript interop.
Mm-hmm.
And we implement that inside of your the app Razor component, right? I actually do a code behind on that because it just gives me better, I don't know, just cleaner. I like the code behind myself.
Yeah.
So if we go to app Razor and create another file, app.razor.cs, simplify.
So add new file. And Brave Cobra, we're not ignoring your question there. He was asking about the concurrent threading and in the state of the reducers. Maybe, is there like an article or something that we can point Brave Cobra to answer some more of these questions? I feel like there's a lot of really good questions, but stuff that's probably been talked about before. Seems like this has been around for a while.
This would be Mediator. So I think you're talking about if I had like 3 or 4 handlers running at a time, or they're competing. So one guy changes this state, and then another one is changing that state, and the other one's not done yet. That's what he's saying.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah. So if we wanted to try and make it so that we fired off these threads, the UI thread's not going to be multi-threaded though, but in the future that we could. So you might be correct that in the future we might be able to create a race condition. So what you would do is basically you want to make your pipeline single threaded. So first come, first serve. This is what he's saying. There
we go. So while you were talking, I don't know if folks noticed or not, but I added the app.razor.cs file to the completely wrong part of the project. Deleted it, added it back, but my naming, I used app.razor.cs, so I get this nice nesting in Visual Studio. So my CS file is beneath AppRazor, so they're not just all sitting out in the root, taking up space. And then we can't name it app, can we? So the actual class needs to be like app base or something like that. Is that kind of the format you use?
Preview 7, app base, or app base is fine. Preview 7 is going to have partial classes though, from what on the road, according to the roadmap, which is nice.
So in the future,
so it needs to inherit from component base.
Partial, and it would be app, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Next version, and then components.
Yeah, component base there.
Control
so there you go. That control dot's awesome. Yeah, that's like all this IntelliSense just destroys your capability to whiteboard interview. Like I can't code. I can't code on a whiteboard. Where's control dot? Where's the IntelliSense? Actually, Microsoft dev test that I took, I failed too, because it was like they turn off IntelliSense. I'm like, well, that's not fair. I mean, who's going to write? Yeah.
Yeah, just not seeing it alone throws me off. It makes me think I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I use it as confirmation, if nothing else. Okay, so I'm going to just see if I can paste this bad boy in there.
Uh-oh.
Let's see, what are the odds of that working? I'm going to throw them all. ASP.NET components. Yeah, okay, I've got that.
Yeah, Lewis, I think those things will come when they fix the partial class stuff and the namespace issues that we have and a couple more features. I'm sure we'll get some little scaffolding type of tools.
So, as you guys know, most of you know, this on after render async is what we switched. We used to do on init async, and we had some problems with when was JavaScript ready and when wasn't it ready. So now we know that we can do it here. These items are injected just so, well, here you see the little comment. The IDE keeps saying you can get rid of this thing because it's not used. Well, it is used because the injection actually makes the container created, and inside the constructor I am mapping attaching to the URL helper so that I get events when someone changes the URL. So this will let you maintain state inside of your state inside of Blazor State as well. That's built into Blazor State, so it's just, and it's on by default, so that feature is available. So the JSON request handler is how I can take things from the JavaScript side and put them onto the Mediator pipeline as well. They all go through the same way. You dispatch an object, and when it comes over to the other side on the C# side, if it's not confusing enough, we have the JavaScript side, the C# side, both in the client, which could run on the server. Yeah, who could be confused,
Not
right?
confusing at all.
Not confusing at all, right? So this JavaScript, the JSON request handler, anyway, is what fires that up, and it gets initialized here as well. So the Redux dev tools, which you wouldn't need in production, so you could put some logic around when you turn these on and off. And there's also a setting inside of the add Blazor State. It's on by default because we're not supposed to be in production yet. But anyway, that is what sets up the JavaScript side for the Redux dev tools as well. Okay. All right, so now only thing we need left to do is you need to inherit from app base in your app Razor component.
Yeah, I almost forgot that.
Inherits is spelled wrong, I think.
Inheritiz. There we go.
Alrighty, so, cool. So now maybe
rerun.
Hopefully, I'm afraid to even hit the little close the exception button on the.
Let's see what we get. The builds have been really slow. Again, like we're beating this poor little machine up. It's got decent horsepower, but OBS takes a good chunk of CPU.
It does.
Skype,
it does.
Believe it or not, does a pretty fair bit of damage too. Send more cores, Lewis said. Yeah, I need a good desktop rig, actually, is what I need. But what's nice about this rig is it's powerful enough I can take it on the road and stream from other locations, which I just recently found out was a possibility. I did 2 shows off of my setup from Build. The one with Daniel Roth came out amazing. I did one with Scott Hunter, and it came out terrible because of some setting I had, made us sound like a bunch of old men. Like our voices were slow like this. And yeah, it was something I didn't know. Thanks, chat room, on that one. You couldn't tell us that our voices were way off, so I could fix it and not sound terrible. I blame you guys on that one. So, all right. So it looks like the Redux tools have booted up.
Yay!
If I increment, I get a increment count action was invoked. And then we can see that it was sent a new count of 4, and it has a GUID. And then we also should be able to, is it rewind?
Be able to change.
We can rewind.
No. I don't have time. Time travel may work now, but I put in my blog post that it's not worth the trouble. You have to implement all these events for something that's never going to run in production. And I have found that it's only cool for demos. We had it with React at Little Caesars as well. And frankly, I never use time travel to debug anything. So I've deprecated it. It might work now because there's a bunch of JavaScript. You actually serialize the whole state and send it back to the client, and he keeps a in memory over there. And then when you time travel, it's just actually updating the state over on that side from that JSON. But yeah, so I've decided what you see right there is what I want to be able to see. I want to see, did that action fire or not, and what was in it.
Yeah, we can see the diffs there.
So, so if you change pages now and come back, you should also see that there's a route change.
Yep.
Request takes place in there.
So that's
also
getting logged as well.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. So, well, like I said, that by adding that route manager in the app piece, that comes in there with it. So
that all came from this stuff right here.
Yep, route manager adds in the route stuff, and then Redux DevTools obviously is what gives you the interrupt for that. But the JSON request handler is rather nice because now on the JSON side, or on the JavaScript side, you have a dispatch method that you can call. And whatever you dispatch, it's on the receiving side is going to be this JSON request handler. He's going to see it, he's going to turn it into an object, and then he's going to see if the Mediator pipeline can handle that object. So and then return a result.
Okay.
So it makes all of your JavaScript, you don't have to call back and forth. Everything can go through the same pipeline as well. So that's kind of nice. So actually, if the JavaScript side sent off an action and the handler managed state, it would actually send a subscription out to all of the people that were on that state to update also. So that might help some of the JavaScript interop problems that we have now. All right, so that's pretty much it for the basic demo. Now, let's see, how much time are we? Good golly, it's taking us forever.
74 errors. What is happening?
I don't know. That's not good.
Yeah, something about cancellation tokens. I don't know. Clone state behavior. I don't know.
Where do you see these errors?
Let me clear this. Let's see what happens here. Let's clear the console. Let me increment state again. Oh, it's fine now. Wait, no. It's fine now. What the heck was that all about?
There's that race condition that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
With our single-threaded WASM.
Try reloading this one more time. What it may have been, I'm wondering if the...
you might have tried that time travel.
Oh, okay.
And that could have injected some weird stuff.
So let's do that. Console again. Yeah, no errors there. Let me play with the Redux tool. And console.
that very well could do it.
Yeah, that was it. It was the Redux tool.
Yeah, that's why I'm deprecating that, because it's not worth the trouble. I just want to be able to see the actions. I don't care to play and do the time travel stuff anymore.
Okay. So.
Yeah, and I think I can turn it off. Supposedly I can turn it off so you can't even click the button, but that doesn't work in the Redux DevTools. I've tried.
Okay.
Maybe it's fixed now, but it didn't work before. Okay, so now the best way to go see a real demo would be to download the template. All right, so let me throw that link in the chat as well. And this will give you a little bit better app to see how things play. And it actually has an example of middleware in it as well. So if we go to pull open your Commander or some terminal there, and then install these templates. Let's see. Can you see the chat?
Yeah, I've got the page open. I just copied that out. I'm trying to load my console up because it's a little slow getting it going.
And this template actually includes the hosted version with, I just updated it today. That was actually just like an hour before the show with some new CSS. So we've got the CSS that we get in the default app, although it has the Blazor purple in it, which I like. it uses Bootstrap, but for some reason they don't really use Bootstrap, and they do a bunch of custom CSS in there. And to me, my theory on that is if you're going to use Bootstrap to where it can be used, and then only if it's not capable of doing something, then do you do custom CSS. So I've in this template I've moved it all. I think the base CSS just says include like iconic or something like that, and that's it. And you get like a header, a footer, and a sidebar, stuff like that. It's a little bit more traditional. It should also be responsive a little bit. But on top of that, you've got client integration tests, server integration tests, and Selenium tests in the template out of the box. So when you fire it up there, Ed, the Selenium tests won't run unless you have Selenium installed on your machine.
I do not have that installed.
Yeah, so those will fail, but the others should run. So it gives you a decent starting point. Has the Mediator pattern on the server side as well as obviously on the client side also.
So it looks like the installer is going to take forever.
Shouldn't be too terrible.
Let me try killing that process. We'll start it again. Again, this I need a full-on desktop for this stuff. Jeez, it is just killing it.
Yeah, I guess you're gonna have to have your portable and your home system, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything I can kill off to make this run
By
faster.
the way,
oh, there it goes. It finished.
You do work from home, right?
Yes, I do.
Yes, kudos to Telerik for that. Yep. All right, an
That's
awesome.
why I'm able to do awesome stuff like this, is because I work from home and I can choose my time wisely.
Free range developers. That's my.
So I need to copy this now. Yeah, Telerik's such an awesome company to be part of. We're really good at developer relations. We stay pretty independent so we can talk to developers without a bunch of we're not salespeople. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're just trying to bring awareness that we're here. So
Speaking of which, I just saw a demo. I don't know if Kenny's on in the chat or not, but he just did a demo for me, and he's using the Telerik grid for his. It's a CRUD app, pretty much. He implemented this whole thing in like a week. It's pretty impressive how much work that he was able to accomplish in a week. And he's like, I don't think I can go back to React now. He goes, this is sweet. Yeah, and he implemented the Telerik grid with the inline. Is it inline or in cell? I forget which one you call it. So you edit it in place.
Cell is more like the bulk operation where you can tab between them. Inline is like one line, hit edit, the line opens up. You edit the each item, and then hit save for just that one line.
Yeah, so he's implemented those features as well. So it's pretty sweet. And he used the window. He used the Telerik window to pull up his totals.
So my second.
How many classes there were? Maybe.
My second Visual Studio instance is killing our stream.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna have to get this and shut it down. Let me shut that app down as well. And I think we are back. That it started to eat so much CPU, I think we started losing the stream there. I couldn't hear anything you were saying, but I'm hoping it was all good.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. The .NET new work.
There we go. So I've got the template loaded. This is the template you were talking about that had all the Selenium tests and everything else in it.
Should be able to build right out of the box and run.
All right, so let's do, I'm going to do Control F5. This may come to a screeching halt again. I hope not.
Yeah, let's give it a whirl.
Oh,
Control F5 would be better. That didn't look good. That's not a.
it's something simple. Um, it's either we get a new follower. That's always nice.
Come join the Ed and
Oh,
Steve.
our Dallas is here. We were just talking about
Oh,
you.
there we go.
Incoming raid at the very end of the show. Uh-oh. So we can recap for the folks that just show up. So I'm Control F5ing. By the way, as we were having those connection issues, Brave Cobra says that he looked at the source code and found an actual possibility for a race condition in the clone state behavior. So that's something to look at.
Yeah, ask him if he could just file an issue on that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then give me an example, and we'll see if we can write a test case for it to try to force the condition, and then see how we can fix it.
Yeah, Brave Cobra, you've got the GitHub link there. If you can file an issue, that would be awesome. Steven would appreciate it. So this is the template app that you have available for the new people that are joining the stream as part of the raid. Thank you, R. Dallas, for the raid, by the way. We were actually talking very well about you earlier. There's quite a few R. Dallas fans here, including Steven and I. So welcome to the show. We are talking about Blazor, the client-side web framework that Microsoft is working on, and we have a state management library by Steven, who is joining me in the show at the lower right-hand corner of the stream. You may see him down there. He's actually the actual author of the library. And what it allows you to do is keep state within your client-side applications, similar to like a Redux type of a thing that you'd see in React. So if you have things that are on your page, say this counter I just incremented to 23, if I navigate away and navigate back, my state is maintained, and there's a lot more going on than just that, but it's a nice state management tool that we're checking out. So that's what you've missed so far. And we just pulled up the template application, like the demo app oops, and I accidentally closed it because I don't know what I clicked on. So we'll pull it back up, but there we go.
You get that baby running, you should see a couple counters on that counter page.
Yeah, so we've got display 1, display 2, and 2 independent counters here. Or no,
so they're
linked.
That's a test.
Mm-hmm.
That's a test so that they're both using the same state.
So
the Selenium test will go in and click the button on one and make sure that the other one updates, because that's testing the subscription mechanism, right?
Okay, so this is a shared state that both counters are subscribed to.
Right, correct. So they're both on the same counter state. They don't have an independent one. And then that down there at the bottom, you'll see it's similar to what you saw with the Redux action is the event stream. That's an example of adding a behavior. So if you look at the source, you'll see there's an event stream behavior that none of the stuff that's being fired across there sends anything to it. It's straight in the pipeline. It just says, hey, everybody that comes through, every event that comes through that I handle, add a string, actually fires another event and passes that through the pipeline, but it filters out its own events, so it doesn't end in a recursive loop. But so it's all done through the same way. The fetch data there fires off an event also, and then there should be one more button there for reset the store.
Yeah, I was just messing around with that. So if we go up to 23, I hit reset store. It takes me all the way back to the homepage and everything.
Correct, because your route is also in state.
Okay.
Yeah, so it sent it back to whatever the initial route was. I'm going to add a feature to where I can reset an individual state, because there might be places where you don't want to reset everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is so that if you guy logged in, you don't have like the order that the previous guy was on still in state. So that's what that was for, and then some test cases that go along with it. And the Redux
So
tools should all be firing off for those as well. I
just
don't
digging
have
around
any.
here for a second, seeing how these were all set up. So we have
So
some.
yeah, in the
Is
pipeline
there
folder.
shared? I was looking for the. You have a reset button. I was trying to see how the reset was actually being called.
Yeah, okay, so that'll be on the counter page. So in a pages folder, there
Yeah,
should be a counter there
got the
somewhere.
page. I'm trying. It's got its own component. So under components, I'm expecting to see a reset button, but I don't see reset button anywhere. Where'd you hide that sucker?
It's. Are you on the counter page or on the counter component?
I'm on the counter page.
Yeah, so what does it say on there? It has the counter, just has the two counters. It doesn't have the reset.
It
Does
has
it?
reset and event stream, but where's the actual reset button at?
I don't know. I thought it was right there on that stream. I don't know. I don't.
I mean the component's being used there. Where's the component defined? Like where's the code for
Okay,
it?
so there's going to be code behind on that counter thing that would have the event handlers hooked up.
Oh, okay. No,
Let
that's
me
not it
pull that.
either.
Let
Maybe I'm
me
looking in
pull
the
it
wrong
up here.
place.
Let me pull one up here. Let's see. What do I have? Timer web template. I just created this thing like an hour before the show.
Oh, okay. I
Updated.
see you moved the action or the actual components to the feature as well.
The components that are related to the state that they act on. So my
Okay.
pages folder ends up just being everything that has a route. So I try to, otherwise all of the feature is encapsulated within the feature folder, everything that's related to that. If a component touches more than one state, then or can be reused, that doesn't care about any state, then I move it up into the components folder. Otherwise, it's going to be in the components folder for the state that it acts on.
So I found the reset button.
Okay,
So you
cool.
have an action called reset store action that you're just sending to Mediator on the
Yep.
button click. Okay.
Every action that's going to take place goes down the pipeline. If you don't do it that way, then it would be like MVC. Somehow or another, they could talk to your server without hitting your pipeline. Well, then all of your filters, all of your middleware wouldn't run, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
want to be consistent, then you send everything down the pipeline.
Entity Adam says, I'm working on a Blazor project where I'm using the MVVM pattern. I know it's early, but is there going to be an idiomatic way, a Blazor way to do UI behavior? Entity Adam, I would like you to meet Lewis Hendricks.
Lewis.
Lewis has been working on an article series on MVVM. Lewis is in the chat room, or was in the chat room. I don't know if he's still there. If Lewis, if you're still there, he was there like 4 minutes ago, so hopefully you're still there. Let's see. If you want to, oh, you know each other from Gitter. Well, you're asking the wrong guy, Entity Adam. You need to talk to Lewis. You guys know each other
Yeah.
already.
Anything to do with MVVM, Lewis is on it.
If you're looking for a second opinion, then I'm probably not the guy. I like MVVM, but I don't know. I never really subscribed to, no pun intended, the MVVM pattern very much. So I haven't really looked at it yet. I need to read Lewis's articles in detail and try it out and see what I think of it. But yeah, Lewis would be the go-to person to check out, and it looks like you guys know each other already. So it's a small world. Great question though. I've heard a lot of people interested in Blazor that are coming from either Silverlight or WPF. and trying out Blazor because it has some similarities. So I wouldn't doubt that we see people using heavily MVVM patterns with Blazor. I think it works pretty well from what I've seen. I haven't really done anything hands-on with it, but I've seen some good demos, and it looks like it works well. Looks like Blazor-State is overkill for a small sample project, but useful or amazing in a large application. Yeah, Steven was given examples of using React in the Redux pattern in large Little Caesars scenario. So, I mean, if you're building really big applications, having all of your application code broken out into these feature slices would be very helpful, and also just the pattern itself of using a store and Mediator, also something that would help you scale beyond small apps. So I think we're headed in the right direction if we've got a big app to write. Was there anything else in this project you wanted to show off, Steven?
You can take a look at the event stream and see how easy it is to implement a middleware item. It should be in the pipeline folder.
Oh yeah, here we go. Pipelines, and then we have notification post and preprocessor.
So there's different kinds that you can do. There's 3 different kinds actually. A behavior is added to the pipeline, and it gets a shot at it on the way down the pipeline, and then everything goes down the Mediator pipeline, comes back up. So it gets a shot at it both ways, and the pre-processor gets a shot at it at the beginning, and the post-processor gets a shot at it at the end. Okay. So depending on what you want to do. But the event stream example in there, I mean, it's very small, very easy to do. And then how do you add it to the pipeline is just in your startup, you register it. So that's all Mediator. You do the same thing on Mediator side. One of the features that I like is that I can also add fluent validation into that pipeline.
Oh, okay.
As well. So every command that would go down through can be validated, and I can raise an exception with the with validation results if I wanted to as well.
I like fluent validation myself.
I do too.
Data annotations, nice. I feel gets clunky really fast. Like the fluent validation stuff.
Works great for required and maybe length.
Yeah.
But after that, not so well. Yeah. But the team's making it so that it supports basically the same stuff that it does on the MVC, and you obviously can go to fluent validation. I mean, Sainty has an article on fluent validation, and I've been using it. I think on one of my cryptocurrency wallet that's out there uses fluent validation.
Yeah, we did a show on that as well. Early on, before validation was baked into Blazor, we did that.
So I still recommend your way. Yeah, it's super sweet. It's super nice, and it works great on the server side too. So in the shared folder, I have a requests and responses, which are exactly the same structure that you'll see on the server side, and a validator. I can put the validator in there as well. So that's kind of nice. I don't think this one has any validation for it, but
yeah,
it could go right there. So if you look at the server, you'll see that inside the weather forecast, which is also organized by state over there, you'll see that it's set up the same way, and it'll have a request and a response. And you can define all of your HTTP. Basically, that's the contract. You can define with objects the request and response object.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really cool about Blazor is we get this shared application structure now. We can share things that are common on the front and back end. So we could, if you're using features like this, would validation be just another folder under features?
Just another file right alongside of your request normally. It's a request validator.
So you put them right inside of the
feature
subfolder.
With the actions, whatever action it is, it'll have it will have the request, the handler, validator, and on the server side, sometimes I have a mapper that I often use AutoMapper for as well.
More Jimmy Bogard tools. We should just
Yeah,
call this the
yeah.
Jimmy stack.
Yeah, I actually have a blog out there from a long time ago. I think all my images are screwed up, called Jimmy MBC. Uh, yeah, and they at Marathon they called me Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy. I'm like, okay, I'm preaching a little bit too much, Jimmy. But I use Fixie also, which is done by one of Jimmy's coworkers on the test cases. They're all implemented with Fixie, which is a nice little testing framework that's low ceremony, no assertion classes, so I just use shouldly with that. But those tests are in there, so if somebody wants to get started, and if you have Selenium standalone running, those and then Selenium tests would work as well.
I don't
So
know if we have any Michigan folks in the chat room, but I believe there are still tickets available for Beer City Code. So this is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I'll be there in like 2 weeks at Beer City Code. I have a full day Blazor workshop on Friday. So if you're new to Blazor, want to learn more about Blazor, I will be there. I have a hour session on Razor and all of the Razor terminology. So I have a talk that it's almost done. It's I'm still looking for feedback on it. I was kind of pinging people on Twitter the other day, asking for some input. But it's there's so many terms that are being thrown around that have Razor attached to them. Razor pages, Razor views, Razor HTML helpers, Razor tag helpers, Blazor, Razor components. That I built a talk just to kind of clear up what all of those things are, how they're implemented, and how you build them. So I have to talk about that as well. I see a lot of familiar faces. I don't see Mr. Bogard, though. I was wondering if he was coming. Nope. But Guy Royce is coming. If you haven't seen Guy before, he's been on Dev Chatter with Brendan. So there's going to be some really good speakers out there. So if you're in the Michigan area, I think there's still tickets available for this thing. It's in about 2 weeks. It's May 31st through June 1st. Just wanted to throw a little shout out there to Beer City Code for having me. So what do we got here?
I threw up a link on the chat there as well. So that's my blog site there. And I'm going to be announcing a mentor program. Probably, I don't know. Ardal is still online. He's gonna do the opening slingshot for me. So I'm really happy about that. He's gonna do the grand finale. We've got some cool Freeze team characters coming. So it's the catchphrase there is turn your liquid. The liquid is a link down there, and it's something that we came up with a few years ago. It's like the antithesis of solid. And I made a joke, and I said their code's not solid, it's liquid. And so we defined it. So the nemesis of us is liquid code, and Steve is going to throw out the opening blog post for me. And introduce my solid characters, which are going to have a handful of characters, their little mascots. So it should be cool. And the mentoring program is going to start probably the first of the month. I actually have a couple already, but I'm going to make it. I think that's what I want to do. I really enjoy learning the new tech and working with people to help build their career and teach them skill sets. I find that fun. Ed's got the best job. Yeah, it's a really cool gig. So I'm going to try to, and Ardalis is helping me out there. Going to try to make a run of that. Probably do a little side projects here and there to make a little extra cash flow. And then maybe I'm thinking, I don't know if anybody would be interested in an intensive authentication class from everything from, simple identity all the way to implementing identity server, which is no joke, by the way. Like a 4-week, everything you can do with authentication in Thailand. So that's if anybody's interested, I think that can make that fly. I know a few people are. I might do that. Would that be more fun than just Beer City Code? No offense.
Give folks a good reason to go. Another good reason to go to Thailand. I've heard good things. So if you need to find budget for a trip to Thailand. Training
Well,
is always a good reason.
exactly, and also going to include housing with the training because I live here, I can I can get some decent prices on housing. So I don't know if I don't know the timing yet. I don't know. Boot camps are like 9 months long. I've seen some boot camps where they're full time, do it in 2 months. I think that's too long, but I'm thinking maybe 4 weeks might be just about right. You don't want to come to Thailand for a week. It takes too long to get here. That doesn't make any sense. So I think 4 weeks might be the sweet spot. But anyway, sign up if you would on my site, and then
Lewis says, would love to do that. 100% sure. Can't get the budget approved.
Hey, it's training, dude. It's training, Lewis. Come on. Well, not everything's going to be there. The mentoring program is going to be remote and online.
Yeah, and I'm also getting called out for encroaching on your weekend. So Bite Me was saying that I'm forcing you to stay up past your bedtime.
Yeah, it's 12:54 a.m. on Saturday right now. So yeah,
it's
my Friday.
Saturday.
Yeah, I'm ahead of you guys. Yeah,
welcome to the weekend.
You guys want to know? You want to know what the lotto numbers are? Just ping me.
And we have a new follower to HDHSC. I don't know if that's a name or just a bunch of letters, but thank you for following. Appreciate it. Codebase Alpha joined the show. You're catching the last few seconds here. Codebase Alpha. I'll throw a Codebase Alpha emoji back because I just subscribed to his channel last episode. So I think we will go ahead and wrap this up. And I want to give a big thanks to Steven for joining me on the show and testing out the whole Skype capabilities of this whole thing. And we had quite a few fails with the live share, Visual Studio live share, unfortunately, but we made it work. We managed to get enough bandwidth across the world from the U.S. to Thailand, enough to put on a show. So it worked out, and it was cool to see the framework or library that you're working on, and I think it will be something that people find useful.
All right, thanks, Ed. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for joining us on the show. I will be back next week. It will be, let's see, let me check my calendar again. The 24th, I will be heading into, let's see, 24th will be good. I don't know what I'm doing on the show next week. I have some ideas. The following week is going to be a very busy one. The 31st probably will not have a stream. This is because of Beer City Code. Because I'm giving a workshop on that day instead. So I obviously can't stream if I'm in a workshop giving a workshop. I would not be streaming from the workshop. I know people are probably going to ask that. I'm not live streaming from the workshop because this is a paid workshop, and I think that's disingenuous to the people that paid to do the workshop. So won't be streaming that day. I probably will just skip a week and follow up the next week. But as many of you know that came over from our Dallas's stream, Steve Smith has a stream about the same time on Friday. So you're very welcome to visit his show on the 31st. You're welcome. Thank you guys in the chat room. I want to say thanks again, Bite Me, who's continued to cheer on the show and I put a top cheer box on there, and Bite Me, I think you're going to be occupying that for a while, which it didn't update with that last one for some reason, but it should. Maybe the next time I start the stream it will. So I want to say thanks again, and everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week for sure. And Steve, thanks one more time. You enjoy what's left of your weekend there.
Will do.
All right. Thanks, guys.